Stepstones. Have you ever been to the Stepstones? Have you ever even heard of the Stepstones? It wouldn't surprise me if you said no to both. Nothing ever happens there. Except for one thing. In the 279th year after Aegon's conquest, it's where I was born. I grew up there too. My name to some is Bertram. My father was a landed knight sworn to the Martells who owned one of the remote islands along with my mother. He was a good man. Taught me how to use a sword. He used to tell me tales about my grandfather, who'd been a famous warrior before I was born, before he died. I remember asking my father once why my mother's father had been killed. Clearly I wasn't ready to know who my grandfather was at that age, although he would tell me in the end. That day, he gave me a history lesson. He told me that once Westeros was inhabited by the children of the forest. Then we, the Andals that is, came across the Stepstones and took it from them. Then the ambitious and the strong would carve out kingdoms in this land. If they wanted more land, they took it. Then Aegon Targaryen came with his dragons and took it all. Just after I was born, Robert Baratheon took the throne from the Dragon Kings. When my father told me this, he beckoned around us. We were standing in a fertile pasture surrounded by trees and a stream. And he said to me, "Every rock, every river, every blade of grass has a claim staked in it." He beckoned up the hill to his holdfast. Before me, my father owned it. Before him, my grandfather. Before that, someone had to fight for it. It seemed like a throwaway lesson to him, like he was trying to avoid the question of my grandfather's fate by imparting wisdom. Although that was probably true, I never forgot what he told me. I have to admit, at the time I took the wrong lesson away. My interpretation was, fight long enough and hard enough, kill enough men, you could rule the world. That was my thinking at the time, at least. I realise now it was nothing to do with how many you kill, but who. I was actually the third son of his and the first of his second wife, so I would inherit nothing of his. And ever since my mother died giving birth to me, his third wife had been trying to get rid of me. And when I turned 19, she'd get her wish. My father still wouldn't tell me who my grandfather was, but he did tell me where I could go and get proof of his identity. If you want to know, go to the library at the Citadel in Old Town. Talk to Archmaester Marwyn. They call him Marwyn the Mage. That's what he told me. So I did. I boarded a ship, and I never saw home again. About an hour out of port, we were caught in a northerly bound storm, which sent us in the wrong direction, and we were forced to land at Weeping Town in the Stormlands. So I had to make my way to Old Town on horseback, alone. That was a miscalculation. I got the shit kicked out of me by bandits somewhere in the Reach, and for reasons I don't fully understand, they took me up into the Westerlands. So after several painful days of captivity, I spotted my chance and escaped. There I was, in an unfamiliar land, without a horse, barefoot, and no money for food, shelter, or shoes. I need not have worried though. I walked about 2 miles down the road when I bumped into my first liege, Sir Lyle Crakehall, who demanded to know why I hadn't enlisted in the Westerlands levy. I tried to explain I was passing through, and I think he knew that. He just didn't care. Just like that, I was conscripted in the Lannister army, as a levy. All I wanted to do was go to Old Town. And I know it seems like we've turned over 2 pages at once, but this is how my early life went. And that is how my illustrious military career began. See, the day I landed at Weeping Town, King Robert had been gored by a boar, and in my days of captivity with the bandits, the incident involving Cersei, Eddard, and all the other magobbledygook took place. The North, Riverlands, Dragonstone, Reach, Stormlands had all revolted, hence the levy had been raised. In short, I had picked the wrong time to go on an adventure. Now Sir Lyle Crakehall had put a jerkin round my waist, an all-pike in my hands, and off we went to fight the Riverlords. They did give me a pair of shoes though, I appreciated that. I had a minimal service term of 1 year before I could leave the army without fear of desertion. When I was first conscripted, it was possibly the most dispiriting thing that ever happened to me. If you'd told me that in just a few days I'd be enjoying the soldier's life, I'd have called you a liar. The truth is, I think I found my true calling in the army. Despite being a levy, and being little more than archer fodder, as soon as I got promoted to a rank where I was allowed to carry a shield, suddenly my pay, reputation, and life expectancy dramatically increased. I found a camaraderie around those campfires that I'd never had before. I'd been a lord's son all my life. Now I sat among equals, ate the same dry meat, drank the same weak ale, and shared the same dangers in battle. Despite all the death, wanton destruction, and all the other things you're supposed to say you're haunted by, I do look back on those days fondly. It was simple. Go here, go there, kill that man, horse, cow, chicken, whatever it was. I was young, strong, and competent, which saw me swiftly promoted through the ranks as a man-at-arms. I was happier than I thought I could be as a conscript. But nothing lasts forever. It was in a battle near Ramsford I got my first real taste of defeat. Sir Crakehall had been raiding deeper into the Riverlands in search of wealth, and brought us all along with him. We never should have been there in the first place. It was a bad day. We were cornered like beasts. and fought like them too, but still lost, given they outnumbered us. So after painful days of being dragged around, I took my chance and escaped. I did some thinking then. Lyle was brave. You can never fault him for bravery or strength. He was, however, an imbecile. Although I couldn't request a discharge yet, I could request a transfer to another lord's retinue. To do that, I would need to ingratiate myself to Crakehall. Luckily for me, they'd locked him up in Seaguard. This part of my story no one ever believes, but I swear it's true. When I got to Seaguard, I scouted it and discovered there were 3 lords' retinue staying at the castle. So this is how the rescue went. I walked up to the castle, they let me in, I killed the guards on duty, let Sir Lyle Crakehall out of his cell, killed the remaining guards, and walked out the castle. Sir Lyle was so astonished by my temerity that when I asked for my transfer, he responded with, "Yes, please don't hurt me." And that's how I ended up in the retinue of Tywin Lannister. I chose it not to be at the centre of power, but because it was the biggest retinue. It was less of a family atmosphere and more like an army. The stability made it worth it though. It was less enjoyable, but certainly easier being in Tywin's retinue. We mostly just went around bullying peasants. Although there was the occasional notable dust-up. Now those were proper battles. I came very close to the stranger in some of those scraps. There were none quite as close as the Battle of Pendrick Hills though. We were resting on a plateau waiting for reinforcements to arrive for a few days. When they were nearby, I was sent as part of a detachment to guide them to us. We were on our way back to camp with the reinforcements when we were attacked by a band of Reachmen. They bungled the element of surprise but still went for the attack. This was an even fight, and they were deep in our territory. They couldn't allow any of us to escape for fear they were hunted down, so this would be a fight to the finish. And it was. Being the sole survivor of that fucking disaster, I was knighted, just for the plaudit of not being dead, which is more than can be said for the 300 other men that were on that field that day. I was the only survivor of the Battle of Pendrick Hills. There are some things I've done in my life that people still speak of. This was the first one. This was also how I was noticed for the first time by Lord Tywin himself. At first, I had his note, but what came next gave me his attention. We'd been having quite a lot of raiders in the Crownlands near King's Landing, so the whole retinue was out one day, so that Tywin could personally see the state of the countryside. We'd been riding for a few hours and crossed over the God's Eye River to take a look at the far side, when the Stormlanders appeared. They outnumbered us, and chased us back to the crossing we'd come from, when we were head off. They effectively trapped us in a valley west of the river. The only way out was to fight our way past the vanguard. Outnumbered and fighting uphill, we marched. They knew Tywin was there. They would take him at all costs. It was hopeless. The retinue was destroyed. Tywin was captured. I was not. This gave me a chance to break Tywin out of jail. So I did it. The only way I know how. I killed the guards and walked out. Eventually I got him out of there. He was very grateful. That day, I went from being a knight to a rich knight, and before long, a landed knight. You may be surprised, there wasn't too many quibbles about one of his retinue being made a lord. Forget not, my father was a nobleman, and Tywin knew that. I think Stephanie didn't know who my grandfather was, though. But then neither did I at the time. I confess, I didn't think much where I'd come from in those days. I was happy, and I was proud of myself, and I had reason to be. I had nothing to inherit back on the Stepstones, but through luck, bloodshed, and the hellfire of a civil war, I had made myself a lord. Sir Bertram. I was officially discharged from the Westerland's army, sent forth to raise my own retinue, and forge my own way. Finally, the master of my own destiny.
Hi there, I'm Jampad. I hope you enjoyed my little experiment. The experiment was conducted in the research of whether or not it was possible to combine single-player gameplay with story elements. In conclusion, was it successful? No, not really. Too much effort. Not doing that again. Aside from the fact that I'm still not 100%, if it works at all. And despite my trollish tone, I am actually not being facetious. An absurd amount of effort went into that. You know that animation thing at the beginning? That took like 4 days to learn. And yes, I am just ripping off Kings and Generals style. I went on that and was like, okay, they used lint blots and camera movement and blah blah blah. Seriously, yeah, no. I had to learn it. I did it from scratch, but I ripped it off. Deal with it. Really, I just did all that so that I would have something to edit, so that I could learn a bunch of new shit. I'm not really that passionate about the format, although the story is growing into something crazy bananas. Like, it's like 6,000 words at the moment, and it's growing. So, like, I might upload that as a sort of Vulcan... You know, like how the Vulcan does his SCP readings, like that. That kind of thing. Thank you for watching my failed experiment. I hope you enjoyed it, but not too much, because I'm not making any more. So goodbye, and have a good day.